So when we, let us say, have this connection, so now we can say, well, okay, well, many of us already do. We have deep-seated religious anchoring rootedness, and we have deep-seated spiritual rootedness. Some of us not only have one God, but many gods. Some of us have studied world religions. So what's the big deal? What's the big deal about Bhakti Yoga then? How is it separate? Well, one, it's separate because it's not, look at where it's coming from, where it's connecting cosmic intelligence to God factor, God principle, where God is not a person. That doesn't say God cannot be a person. Listen carefully. It's saying that if your God is a person, that God person is a representation of a God presence or a God principle. It unites our gods. If we insist that only our God is the only God, then this class will not suit someone. But if we are willing to understand that there are different versions of God, and that there might be some unexplored, unknown to us versions of God, but that God is performing 100%, 500%, and delivering what you want, safety, security, and even miracles occasionally. It is because it's connected to that ultimate intelligence that is doing three functions: expressing, becoming the universe, supporting the universe, and then annihilating the universe. So these three functions are part of Bhakti Yoga, and then we will then understand in Bhakti Yoga the different qualities of this God principle, how this God principle then becomes a support for us, first and foremost, to deal with sorrow. Because when we try to hold on to humans or animals, we're, death, transience, decay, disturbance, war, murder, betrayal, all these things come in the middle somewhere, right? So when we are in this soup, right here, sinking, we need to hold on to that eternal divine intelligence principle. We can see that principle as principle or as a person. That's up to us. That I will not tell you how to see, how to relate. But I can tell you then, because I've been teaching about Durga, Lakshmi, Saraswati, these are all symbolic representations of that principle. Stop here. When we have that connection with Ishvara, known as Ishvara, comes from the root word Isha. Isha means divine power or inner controller that lives in a particle of sand, controlling it to be that particle, and lives in each one of you as your innermost divine power. And this Ishvara is a gender neutral word. And as a result, Durga is Ishvara, according to Vedic understanding. Jesus is Ishvara. Allah is Ishvara. Guru Nanak is Ishvara. Buddha is Ishvara. And because when that power is seen in the form of a presence, we say Ishvara is in Durga. But then what is dwelling deep inside me, myself, and what is that self? None other but Ishvara. So this Bhakti Yoga, when understood properly, unites us with understanding of faith and spiritual calling. It bridges the gap between religions. Yes, the language is Sanskrit, Yes, the initial symbolism was created by Hinduism, but it doesn't stop there. It doesn't say that is it. It's a principle. And thirdly, it gives us a central anchor to hold on to when we are amidst life's changes and challenges. Then we go to Ishvara and we chant or we say, just speak. And the Sanskrit word for prayer is prarthana. And prarthana literally translated as means conversation. We try and have all these conversations. I'm trying to have a conversation. I may be understood, misunderstood, partially understood today. But there is one intelligence that understands my deepest intention. And what is that intelligence? Ishvara. As a result, when we start cultivating through Bhakti Yoga, which is 9 ways of cultivating a relationship, which has 3 ways of understanding where Ishvara is, which has 3 relationships with Ishvara. It's a whole science. Then you gradually become more and more vested in your relationship with this divine intelligence. And then the difficult people in your life and the easy people in your life become representations of Ishvara. And the guru or the person who gives you knowledge is considered also, especially if you have a good relationship with the guru and all is well, you're benefiting from that relationship, then it is said, this is Ishvara's grace that I have got this connection. So this is how Bhakti Yoga then becomes a foundation. In traditional schooling, first Jnana Yoga is taught. People are told about their self. And a little bit of Karma Yoga is also taught. And a little bit of Upasana Yoga is also taught, just so that people have some functioning knowledge. And after that, Bhakti Yoga is given until one becomes deeply anchored and settled into an understanding that I, on this earth, I'm not just suspended on this blue planet in the middle of nowhere, mandated to come back here again and again. No, this is part of a divine plan. We understand it. The difficulties coming to me, the difficult people in my life, the difficult experiences in my life are also under the purview of that principle that is immanent but transcendent to all of this. And that I always have this principle to meditate upon, to talk to draw inspiration from, and to surrender my sorrow to, my ignorance to, so that in my journey, I am more spiritually anchored, you could say that. So then Bhakti Yoga becomes kind of like the first, after studying everything, we go back to Bhakti Yoga and we say, oh, Bhakti Yoga is kind of necessary to deepen all my other yogas, because otherwise the ego stays very active and says, I know the self and I am pure and I am so smart in my actions. But a connection with Ishvara softens our ego, purifies it. You may wonder, if you are new, or even if you've been part of this Vedic way, I haven't really studied Jnana Yoga, Karma Yoga, and Upasana Yoga with you, Shunyaji, then why would you begin on Bhakti Yoga? It's true. But I'm not really teaching you all the yogas at this point. I am also not going to take you to the ultimate depths of Bhakti Yoga through this teachings in Vedic way. To the level at which I'm teaching in Vedic way, this level of understanding of Ishvara, you can think of it, the goal could be that it will give you some solace during samsaric distress, and also deepen your connection to your version of God, Goddess, divinity that has been in your life and is speaking to you. So my goal is not to do a complete transformation for you at this point. My goal is to introduce you to the beginning level introduction to Bhakti Yoga and its central constructs, and then find out from you how it is settling. Is it bringing more relief? Is it bringing more confusion? Nowadays, Bhakti Yoga, we come across the Bhakti Fest and the whole music kirtan circle around Bhakti, and Bhakti Yoga teachings has just been reduced to chanting the names of Hindu gods, like a jam session. Or Bhakti Yoga is a bunch of rituals. But Bhakti Yoga is a science, and it's a science of the divine cosmic consciousness that is still available to us through our awareness, because it's the closest thing to us within. And understanding that principle definitely makes us less egotistic, less alone, less fractured, and increases our fortitude. So I'll stop here and take your feedback. And if you have any questions, you can write them too. We'll give you a moment or two. How do you feel about this description of Bhakti Yoga? Also, if you have religious beliefs, did my presentation, that's important for me, did my presentation assure you that you're not being converted or being asked to choose one God over another? That's important for me. A lot of teachers from the Indian tradition, Vedic tradition, don't talk about Bhakti Yoga because they're like, I'll just teach meditation and, we'll talk about the gods without really talking about God, so that I can stay away from, the sensitive topic. But I want to address it openly to say I have nothing to fear, because I'm a Hindu, but but the Vedas, or the Vedic understanding, the yoga is not Hinduism, but it has some deep connections. It's like, for example, you know, mm, um, um, it's like if a religion or a spiritual way of thinking was born in and around a certain culture, then they tend to get connected. But I have the ability to nuance it and separate them out. So share with me. What do you think? Please write. You can just write the one word comfortable. I'm probably also going to send you a communication and writing up about my Vedic Ways policy on teachings around God and spirituality, which you can all sign up, because these are subtle topics, and sometimes we feel like we want to be informed, but this is just the beginning. And then we can have all the conversations we want openly and freely.
There are a few comments coming in the chat. I also see Jason has his hand raised. Shall I just read these few in the chat and then we'll hear Jason's question?
Yeah, if Jason could type the question, I'd like that.
Jason, if
you can read me read the comments.
Wonderful. While he does that, I'll share these others. He says that I was already doing this Bhakti kind of practice, but I didn't know its name. So it resonates very strongly with me.
Who's saying that?
Jason had written that in the first, yeah. Marinella asks, could you please clarify if Brahman is the same as Ishvara?
Yes, I will clarify. Thank you.
And Susan shares, you provided clarity on the nature of the divine and bhakti as worship of that cosmic intelligence. Pragya shares, I hadn't thought before of bhakti as foundation and as deepening the other yogic practices via dissolution of the ego. And this really resonates with me.
Yes.
Alina shares, I am happy hearing that about God principle, the intelligence that is present in all religions. And Usha shares, I love the feeling of fortitude. And Jason asks, to what extent does it make sense to believe that this universal intelligence loves us and cares about us?
Let my teachings convince you. There is nothing but love. Yeah. Teachings are coming up. Yeah.
Thank you. Linda shares.
So Brahman. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, please.
2 final shares and then we'll hear your. Thank you. Melinda shares, this is a beautiful, deep teaching, Shunyaji, so much here to reflect on. And Rochelle shares, I love this discussion about what Ishvara is. It's always been so vague to me and no one really says what it is. I love this understanding of the God principle. Yes, also
good. So, one, thank you. I do want to hear this one word from you, comfortable. I'm trying to pick cues, not out of any other concern, but out of my desire to be sensitive. That it's such a prickly topic now. But if anybody can talk about God, it is we in Advaita Vedanta, where everything is Brahman. And now I remember, thank you for reminding me that we've spoken about Brahman as that one consciousness. And if everything is one supreme consciousness, then who is Ishvara? Right? Who's Ishvara? Who's the second person second principle that we're talking about? No. Ishvara is none other but Brahman. It's just that Brahman, when we use the word Brahman, we're not talking about any distinction between you and the divine principle. But when we exceed or concede, oh, my English today. So when we concede to the presence of you and something apart from you, which is a God principle, then we have entered what is known as the transactional field of duality or qualified duality. So then we understand that there is no other but Brahman, supreme consciousness, but it is Brahman itself that is modified as the world, Brahman itself modified as the God principle, and Brahman itself modified as you, the individual, brackets, struggling principle.